Hey guys, it's Mario here. I'm at the beautiful park next to Plaza España in Seville, Spain. And in this video, I wanted to share with you a couple of ideas and really a couple of principles on fast reps versus slow rep training. And I know this has been a topic that you probably heard a little bit about, especially since that slow rep training or time and attention training or in these kind of types of training have been marketed to you as some kind of special type of workout that is supposed to elicit a bigger response when it comes to building muscle. And I know that there's been a variety of studies on this as well, and it seems that these marketing kind of tricks don't match the studies, which is often the case. And now in this video, what I wanted to really give you is how important is it to lift slow, or should you even focus on slowing down your reps? And I know a lot of you guys, might have heard of things like time and attention from other guys in the gym. Maybe some big guy in the gym told you, hey, you need to lower it slowly. Some guys maybe told you, hey, it doesn't really matter, you just need to be very explosive when you lift. So what is the truth? Like, what does the science say? Like, what should we do in our training? So if you look at all the evidence, we know that volume is the key factor when it comes to growing muscle and strength, right? Volume is everything. Volume is reps times sets times how much weight you're lifting. And this is something we want to progress over time. So we want to obviously lift more weight. This is called progressive overload. It is a key component of every single workout plan out there that is giving good results. So every plan that should give good results needs to have progressive overload, needs to increase that volume over time. So the premise of kind of what the people think, hey, time and attention is important, so doesn't it make sense? Like, if I hold my biceps longer, like under tension, doesn't that make more muscle? Like, doesn't that stimulate more growth? Well, it really doesn't. And the reason why it doesn't is because you're sacrificing that volume, right? If you think about it, if you slow down your rep for like 4 seconds, like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You can only do so much weight because you instantly have to use a smaller dumbbell, like reduce the weight on your barbell, and you're immediately sacrificing volume for the sake of that time under tension. And a really good example, I think Eric Helms used it, is in his how to describe time under tension. He used like NASA as an example, right? So we're on this planet and we're constantly under time under tension because of gravity. And if time under tension was so important, we would have been growing really fast just with gravity, right? We wouldn't stop growing basically. And I mean, if you look at people who don't lift, how do they look? They look very small and they don't build any muscle because your body needs a magnitude of time under tension. Like, it needs some kind of mechanical overload in order for it to be adapting, in order for it to be gaining size, right? There's no need to build more muscle. And a really good example is like when astronauts go into outer space, when they lose that gravity, they actually start losing a lot of that muscle mass because there's none of that time under tension, so they lost it. But the magnitude of which, when they come back to Earth, when they start rebuilding that muscle mass just from walking around and just from day-to-day stuff, is that it reaches a limit very fast because there's no need to build more muscle, right? The gravity is not pulling you very hard. I mean, we're not talking about like Dragon Ball Z and like Goku traveling in the gravity machine chamber to Namek, and when he's like training at 100 gravity, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about Earth's gravity here, and that time under tension is not that hard. I mean, I wish we had that machine where we could like change the gravity and we could lift. That would be amazing. But in reality, is that the time under tension is not as important in our day-to-day training because we can't simply isolate that eccentric part of the movement from the concentric, right? So eccentric part of the movement does create more muscle damage. It's true. Like, if you just emphasize that lowering part, or like lowering down in the bench press, you will stimulate more muscle damage. But muscle damage is not as important as getting that weight up, as getting more volume, right? And that's where the confusion starts, right? Because people are putting the wrong thing ahead of volume, right? Volume is the key. And we talk about this a little bit when we talk about rest periods, right? People are, hey, you should rest only 30 to 60 seconds. But what that does is, like, you can't lift as heavy. Like, if you ever try to finish your 3 sets of 10 within like 30 seconds of rest, within like 3 minutes of rest, you realize that you can't lift as much, obviously, right? Because you're so fatigued. And then you're sacrificing volume again for something like rest period. And that is very similar to time under tension, where you're sacrificing that volume for the sake of being more under tension. And if that tension is a lesser weight, then there's not enough that magnitude to stimulate adaptation for your body to build muscle, right? So again, as Eric Helms says, putting the cart in front of the horse, right? That is just the way most people operate, in that black and white kind of thing. So if slowing down reps is a little bit better, we should probably slow it down entirely. And to be fair, like if we had a machine in the gym that would kind of automatically make it harder when we would like lower down the weight and then decrease that weight when we were pushing, that might have been a good solution, because the eccentric obviously does allow us to lift heavier weight, and that's why the studies done on the eccentric type of training have found that, hey, it builds more muscle, right? Because you can do more volume, right? If you think about it, you can lower the weight, you can lower a lot more weight than you can actually push. So I could probably lower, I don't know, 160, 70 kilos on bench press without for a couple of reps, right? But I can't push, I can't do that concentric part of the movement, right? And that is if I had a machine, like in these studies where they completely isolate the person, they put them on a specialized equipment where they put that eccentric load on the machine and allow them the concentric. Obviously the eccentric will build more muscle because of more volume. But in our day-to-day training, if you remember, unless you really have a good spotter who knows exactly how to press it and all of the, it's not, first off, it's not safe, second, it's not very practical, third, there's much better ways to train. So the overall big picture of how you can go about fast versus slow reps is simply elicit control over the bar. So you're in control of the bar. So you don't deliberately try to slow it down, and you don't deliberately try to slow down the concentric portion as well. So the eccentric and the concentric should go about 2 seconds. We want to be very, very explosive as you can be with heavier loads. Obviously, that's gonna look slower regardless of how much you think you're pushing. If you do it 100%, it's still gonna be slower. On the eccentric, just don't let the gravity, let the gravity take over completely, but have a natural rhythm to it. So don't try to deliberately slow it down too much. Like next time you see someone in the gym lowering that weight for 4 seconds, just look away, don't pay attention to that. It's not the optimal way to train. And if you really look at all the literature where they compared that time under tension kind of study, there was actually a really good one done by Schoenfeld where he compared powerlifting type of training where they did 3 reps versus 10 rep maxes, right? And they had the same amount of growth. And if you really think about it, the 3 rep group is under a lot less time under tension than the 10 rep set, right? It's like a longer set. Obviously they have more time under tension, but they had the same growth, right? Because they did the same amount of volume, right? That was the study. The study was, hey, can we get the same amount of growth within the same type of with the same type of volume if we do high reps versus low reps? So I talked about high reps, low reps in one of my previous videos, so I'm gonna link that in the description below so you guys can learn more about that. But the reality is volume is king. So progressive overload, adding more weight to the bar, unless we kind of invent that hyperbolic time chamber from Dragon Ball Z, or if we put some kind of gravity machine in there, then until that point, we should just keep focusing on the volume, progressive overload, increasing that weight over time, and you will definitely make some gains. And that is it. So don't believe when people try to sell you some kind of super slow type of training or some kind of focus on eccentric because, I don't know, you feel the burn or whatever. Feeling the burn doesn't equate growth. Growth is simply progress. If you progress, you will grow. And keep an eye on your progress. Log your workouts. Make sure that that weight is going slowly up, like very, very small increments, as much as you can, and you will get the result. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Really wanted to clear up this whole debate versus like fast, slow reps, because I still see a lot of guys asking me this question, hey man, like should I lift slower, or like should I lower that weight slower? Really, it doesn't matter as much as total volume, so don't let that thing impair your total volume. Keep an eye on that. So hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions on this topic, so shoot me a comment below. As always, make sure to click subscribe below to support the channel, and I hope you guys enjoy this. Peace.